I used to do this all the time when I first started doing videos, and I have not done a get ready with me video in a really long time. And one of my subs has asked me to do a makeup video for her. And just talk while I get ready. So I'll give everybody a few minutes to get in here. And today we'll be talking about all the Andys in the Summerwells case. All the Andys that go back to I'm kind of in a hurry. I'm just slapping it on there. All the Andys that go back to Hunter's interview of him saying that there was a little kid, or there was somebody touching little kids that day on Dawn's phone call. We have Andy number 1 close to the hill, over on his own hill, which is Andy Bernard, Jody Sue's Andy. Andy's a drug dealer. Andy's been known to watch porn. Jody Sue has talked about his porn watching habits, and that the kid, on the porn, that the women just keep getting younger and younger, almost becoming juvenile-like. So we have a drug addict, a drug dealer, because she has talked about his drug use as well. We've got a drug addict and a drug user who pretty much runs that hill. And we can tell by the way Jody Sue is a holler mama, and she runs that hill and threatens everybody. Could you imagine what Andy is actually like? I bet everybody is scared of him as well. I can see why the locals are just really scared to speak out on Jody Sue and Andy. Now, Brett Hill says that he's seen Andy in the Ben Hill area about 3 o'clock that day. Jody Sue says he worked late. Matter of fact, she says that's the first time that he's worked late as long as he had worked at that particular spot. And it kind of sounded strange to me that him and Dawn just happened to get home within the same time frame. To me, that was strange. Say what you will. That was strange. And guys, I'm not doing a makeup tutorial. I'm just talking while I'm putting on my makeup. But if you're interested in anything that I am using, I'll be glad to let you know what it is. I don't claim to be a professional at it or anything. One of my viewers says that I do some of my best talking when I'm putting on my makeup. I hear you, and we'll go out in just a minute. Now, we've got Andy number 2, which resides with Andy number 1. And he's protected by his mom and his dad. And the kid's middle name is Andrew. Everybody keeps saying, oh, his name's not Andy. Part of his name is Andy. So I'm not doxing anyone. Jody Sue put her own family on blast trying to run the narrative. He has been accused of being a peeping Tom. At the Wells property. Now, from what I gather, it had to have been after Summer got gone, because they're talking about the alarms going off. They put the alarms in because somebody had been lurking. But it does go back to somebody had been lurking. And it was said by Hunter that Don had called Candace that day and said that there was somebody lurking in the woods trying to touch little kids. Could it have been Little Andy? We'll call him Little Andy. Now, Little Andy has also been accused of being in the swimming pool that was set up at Don and Candace's the day before Summer come up gone. That he had been in the swimming pool with Summer alone. And this come from Fred Hill. Now, I believed what Fred Hill had to say up until it got to the point of the bones. When he pulled the bone stunt, I no longer wanted to hear what Fred had to say. But was it really a stunt, or was it something that he was concerned about? Had they actually been burning stuff off in those woods that had struck him as strange? Was that the only stuff that they have been burning? And what was more strange than that is the swimming pool at the Wells disappeared. Whoever sent that $10 super chat, I really appreciate that. I will put it towards the new computer. That means the world to me. Thank you so much. I will look in just a minute to see who sent it so I can call you out by name. So where is this swimming pool that the Wells had up, and then it just mysteriously come down the day that Summer disappeared? Is it possible that Summer even went home, got in her own swimming pool, and something happened right there in her own swimming pool? Which makeup are you wanting to know about? I used the Anastasia on the foundation, and I used the Morphe on the on my eyes, the underneath of my eyes. And then as far as bronzing, I used just the old Estee Lauder Bronze Goddess. And that's what I do on my face highlights with too, is the Bronze Goddess. And also there's a possibility, because Sheriff Lawson did tell me that Jody Sue was crazy and that he felt like she was reward hunting, that she was going basically chat room to chat room, and she was looking for information herself, and she was calling him about every 3 days and turning in information that she was finding on YouTube. And it would not surprise me that she had sent her son over there while the Wells had company to see what he could record or overhear what was being said to help her collect this reward. And what Sheriff Lawson said to me that day made sense. Now keep in mind, this was early on in the investigation when I spoke with Sheriff Lawson. It was, back when Jody Sue was doing interviews with True Crime Commentary. Was when I spoke with Lawson about Jody Sue. And that was exactly what he said, that she would stay up all night and she would go from, YouTube to YouTube and try to collect information and then call his office and turn that in. And if you think about what she does and tries to control the narrative, that makes very good sense. That she's reward hunting as well. Because you think if she had the answer, she would already have done gone with that, right? So that's Andy number 2. That's baby Andy. We'll call him baby Andy since his mama wants to baby him. Well, I just don't think that Jody Sue knows the truth. And like, Sheriff Lawson said, she's every 3 or 4, at that time, every 3 or 4 days, she would call his office with new information that she had heard on YouTube. So she would stay up days at a time and she would gather information that other people had. And then she would call in, tips and try to put everything together in her mind. So I'm asking, would it make better sense that the kid is a peeping Tom, or would it make better sense that she was waiting out on the road with her car and sent him up there to try to install a recording device or something, trying to get information on the wells? That's what I would think, that she was trying to obtain, because those kids are scared of her and they will do whatever their mom tells them to do. And one day that's going to backfire on her. Jody, one day that's going to backfire on you, sister. One day those kids will see that there is life beyond their mom's BS. And when they leave, they're not going to come back. She's going to lose those kids forever. And I use like a pink tone, a soft rose on my powder. It's by Lorac. And then I put just a tiny bit of satin, just clear white satin powder on it, up underneath here. Because I have dark circles that I have to fight, that are really bad. Too much. It'll blend though, it'll blend. Too much. Good thing it was just clear white. And then Andy number 3. Let's get to Andy number 3 real quick. Andy number 3 is Marlena Crawford's best friend, Andy Paul, who's also a drug dealer. And he lives over in the Light Holler, however they want to say it. We call it Holla on this side. They call it Holler up in Tennessee. Now, personally, I have been going back to some older videos. And I've went back to the one on the behavior panel that Dawn done. The connection to Jessica Light is Jessica Light was a drug dealer over in the next hollow over. But at the behavior panel, Don Wells does not say anything about there being an emergency room visit that day. And on Dr. Phil, he does not say anything about there being an emergency room visit that day. He simply states that there was a prescription that needed to be filled, like a refill. And because of the HIPAA law, I don't even think that the police can get the records. To prove whether there was an emergency room visit that day or not. They could probably get the records from Walgreens to see what was filled. But it has been said many, many times that there was just a prescription to be filled that day. So, was Candace even with Grandma that day at all? Was Grandma at home all day? The orange soda and the Skittles, did that belong to another child that was in the truck that day? Come on, guys. There's 51 of y'all in here and only 20 likes. I need to get this into the algorithm. Y'all go hit that like. Could the orange soda and the candy have belonged to Marlena Crawford's child? Y'all have heard me say that I believe that it is Marlena Crawford's voice in the milk jug videos. And when I come out with this information, I was told to leave Marlena alone because she was the only witness left that had not been pulled forward into YouTube land. Well, I back off and I leave her alone, and then the exact person that asked me to leave her alone goes right after her. And now I hear that she's being threatened, and whoever's threatening her needs to leave her alone because she could very well be a witness. If you've been chatting with her since like December, has she said anything about being with Candace that day? She refuses to tell, so what does that tell you? I believe 100% with my heart that the candy and the orange soda belonged to another child. I believe that the milk jugs was stacked up so that security cameras could not see inside the truck. Well, I have went through the theory that maybe Marlena is the one that called DCS and caused the DCS issue that went on the 14th, the day before over trying to bathe Summer and couldn't put her in warm water because of her holding her crotch and stuff. I've wondered if that was Marlena or somebody different. But there was a DCS issue out there on the 14th. DCS was out there on the 14th. And then boom, Summer disappears on the 15th. According to the neighbors, DCS was out there. On the 14th. Now I think that they were supposed to take Summer in for an examination of some sort. And that's why she disappeared. I don't think so much as they were coming back on the 15th, opposed to they were supposed to take Summer for an examination or they would come back. Yes, she had a kid who spent the night at the wells, and she had to be picked up or she was took home or something on the 14th. Supposedly because Summer got sick. Well, in my opinion, Summer's been sick. Like I said, she looked sick the whole time they were in Gatlinburg. You go back through those pictures, and she's leaning on Josie. She's falling asleep, standing up. Something was wrong with her then. But anyway, back to the third Andy. The third Andy, Andy Paul, is connected to Marlena. That is like her best friend. So the "it's done" text that Hunter claims he saw which one is it most likely? if it was, let me put it this way, if there really was a text that said it's done, which one would it have really come from, in your own honest opinions? I've gave you the scenario with the 3 Andys. And then if you want to go as far as adding a Randy, then there's Randy Hess, or Hass, which is the cop that was prosecuted for having the child pee in his phone and on the computers at the police department. Well, come to find out, he is cousins with Andy Bernard. So this cop that went bad with child pee well, that's true. Everybody out there is cousins. Well, I've heard that Marlena is even related to one of the detectives that's over this case, and that's why it's not moving. Jody Sue has not been cleared. The feds keep hitting her. Because she's sketched. Well, let's see, you've got Billy Dishner and Billy, what's the other Billy's last name? Billy Dishner is the one that Don sold the corner properties to, that Jody Sue is pissed off about. Because had he not sold those corner properties to Billy Dishner, the property would have equaled out to almost 20 acres. Sorry about that. That's one part you got to be quiet for. And I can't think of the other Billy's last name. I don't know anything about that party. I have heard about that party, and I have heard about that party. But I can't get, it's okay, loose lips. We've all been through that. But I can't get clarification. The only party that I know about was Don Wells' birthday party. I mean, it would be kind of stupid to throw a community party for a kid that was going away and then report her missing. I mean, that would be like stupid AF. I mean, who would do that? I mean, I see that they've been bold about a lot of things, but I just don't know if I believe that. I think that was another like Tim Mullins rumor that was put out there. And that is one thing that Tim Mullins has done, is keep the conspiracies going. And it's like he wants to make conspiracies out of this stuff. It's like him putting that picture of Summer out on the Wells website, the one that I had posted and asked questions about, where she looks a whole lot older and her teeth are photoshopped and fixed. Well, and then somebody said that it was somebody else's child even, that it wasn't even Summer. Why post that on the Summerwells official website? Well, I'll tell you why. It's to keep conspiracy theories going in the case. It's to keep people talking about crazy stuff instead of getting on here and talking about facts. Well, still, he shouldn't even be doing that. He should be posting pictures of Summer the way she was, and the way that she, 100% untouched photos. The reason for doing that is, like I said, to keep people talking about nonsense instead of talking about the fact. And that's why he does stuff like that. He wants us talking about conspiracy theories and nonsense and just crazy stuff. It's look over here, not over there. And as long as I can keep them talking about what's going on over here, we don't have to worry about them looking at the facts. It's like me catching Jody Sue when she was talking about the Suburban going up the driveway, and all these creators run to post, oh, well, Jody Sue said the Suburban is what went up the driveway. Well, I went over to her chat and I questioned her about it, and she laughed about it, and she said, well, I meant to say Trailblazer, but I guess since my brain spit out Suburban, then I guess it might have been the Suburban. And she laughed about putting out that questionable information, and she thought it was funny. And then it seemed like, because these creators had made videos about what Jody Sue said, it become fact. It become fact that it was the Suburban that went up the driveway, and not the Trailblazer. It become the gospel, and it wasn't. I'm here to tell you, it was not the truth. And that is when I began to see through Jody Sue. That was the night that it done it completely for me. That was when I was done with Jody Sue Brown. Tiffany was the first one that ran with that and made this big old video about, oh, well, it was the Suburban that Candace left in. Because Jody Sue said so. Well, Jody Sue just told me she wasn't sure which one it was. Question is if Candace is in Georgia, why? Because there was supposedly a sighting of Summer in Georgia that they said was fake, that it was faked by Jenny back during Dr. Phil. So why has Georgia even come up in the conversation now? Why has nobody made that link? So my question would be, why in the hell is she in Georgia? Of all places. She had no link to Georgia. I looked to see if they ever had an address in Georgia, if they had family in Georgia, if she had friends in Georgia. I looked to see if Kathy Marsh had links to Georgia. So, I don't know about that. Can't honestly say. But it's worth somebody checking into for sure. And as long as she's not in Hawkins County, I guess nobody can question her, right? But who keeps telling her somebody's watching? Because who keeps telling her things like when Ernie takes dog food up there to feed those dogs? How does she know that he's even up there on that property? And who's the narc, and who even cares if those dogs get fed? The point is the dogs are getting fed, right? Because even him leaving it in the bin down by the end of the road, the dogs can't open the bin and get to the food themselves, right? Dogs can't feed themselves. Somebody has to actually go up there and feed them. In my opinion. So somebody's watching that property pretty close. And that's sad that nobody can even go up there and feed the dogs without getting the police called on them. And that's just in my opinion. Do what you want to do, but I mean, to have the police called on you just because you have fed a dog, that's pretty low. And I don't know who's doing it. If I did, I would say something about it. Well, then Ernie needs to quit filming it when he goes up there. Ernie has a bad habit of filming everything. And I don't understand why. He would even have a problem with the dogs being fed. I mean, is there something on that property that nobody wants found? Is that it? I thought she said that there was nothing on that property that at all, that Summer wasn't on that property. So why is there a problem? Why is there an issue with somebody going up on the property? I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. Right, 11 months. Absolutely, 11 months. It's ridiculous. And I don't use hairspray. I use this Dry Bar liquid glass on my hair. Or this Christopher Robin. But it does really good. It helps with the dead ends and stuff. It's not like, and it doesn't make it real stiff. Ta-da. Perfume. I think I am going to go home today. I am going to go over to the northeast corner of Alabama, and then I'm going to shoot up into Tennessee. So I'm going to start my vacation today. And I am going to enjoy myself for a while. If that's possible. If it's possible. If nothing else happens. Let me see if I can find somewhere to set this. Sit still. Sit still, camera. I thought Daryl Jacobs was Green Eyes. Is that fact? And I thought Don was talking to him at one time. I can remember Don posting something on Facebook about Daryl Jacobs and Green Eyes, like very back in the beginning. Absolutely, DCS or whatever you want to call them has enough to prosecute. But the problem is if they prosecute on what they've got, it's a bunch of misdemeanors, and they're going to be out walking the streets free. Well, you can tell by his accent that he's a local. He's from around there somewhere. Well, you can tell by his accent he's from around. If he's not in that area, then he's close by that area. He has a very thick southern drawl. But he has been on Jody Sue since day one. Maybe he's seen something, Lips. Guys, I'll tell you why they don't want to prosecute on what they have through DCS. Look up a case that's 30 years old by the name of Andrea Gonzalez. It was one of the first cases that I worked search and rescue for. The little girl was 5 years old. Same situation as Summer. And they told us right off the bat, the parents said that the girl had behavioral issues. And they had called it in that she had been missing, and she had been kidnapped, and she had been this, and she had been that. Well, upon going in the home, there's pills scattered across the table, there's pills on the floor. I mean, this case was just like a mirrored case. When Chris went into Candace and Don's home, to me it was like opening a mirror to the other side of what I had seen before. And anyway, we searched for weeks, we searched for months, we searched for years. Finally, the stepmom says, I scalded her to death in hot water, hot bath water. But they wouldn't tell us where the body was at. So we tried prosecuting her in court. Well, the dad finally says, well, I threw her body into black trash bags and I dumped her over into Upper Bear Creek Lake. Well, we searched more. We searched for weeks. We searched for months. We have searched for years. Every November we still go search for Andrea. We never could find her. So we prosecute, or we try to prosecute. Come, look, when everything was said and done, both of these idiots, because we didn't have a body, and this was 30 years ago, but we didn't have a body. All we had was circumstantial evidence and what they said they did. And all we had was records from DCF showing prior abuse to the girl. They done like 5 years apiece. And these idiots was back out into this community. I don't even think Kim done 5 years. I think she might have done like 2 1/4. maybe 3. But they were right back out in this community less than 3 years later. And we had to look at them and we had to deal with them until Kim just recently died. So for the last 30 years, we've had to deal with seeing these people out in public and putting up with their shenanigans and shit. Because we didn't wait to prosecute them properly. We went and prosecuted too soon. Jody Sue is like an arsonist that sets the fire, stands back and watches the house burn, and then talks to reporters about what she's seen, and then goes and talks to the police about what could have been done different. She's one of these that involves herself in the investigation after a crime that her profile fits, that she has been involved in. Think about it. I believe that there is enough evidence to show that there may have been a relationship between Jody Sue and Candace, and I'm not talking about a sexual relationship. I'm talking about an emotional relationship based upon taking care of each other in abusive situations. The only time that we have seen Jody Sue get fighting mad and cry is over her kids. But before her kids, the only time we seen that was with Candace. She would threaten to go to Beach Creek with baseball bats and beat Don because he was beating Candace. She would post things like, "What did I tell you the night that Summer come up missing was going to happen if you laid hands on her?" I don't know, Jody Sue. What did you tell him was going to happen the night that Summer come up missing? If DCS was threatening to take that child, and I believe that they was. I believe that they were going to have to take that child for an examination, and they knew what was going to happen if they took Summer to a doctor. I believe that Jody Sue helped Candace get that kid off that hill. No doubt about it. And in Jody Sue's mind, it's Don's fault because Don put them in a situation to have to get Summer off that hill. Why else would Jody Sue get rid of the cameras and empty the cameras that was on her property? Why else would she be feeding Don narratives? And this isn't just about, if you listen to her, it's not just about the abuse that she suffered, but about the abuse that Candace has suffered. She's telling two stories there. don't know anything about what time he left for work or from work. But I do know that she said out of her own mouth that she was going to have to protect her abuser at some point. Out of her own mouth, she said that he was running late that day. Andy number 1 and Andy number 2. Exactly, Jody Ann, because everything I pull up comes back Jody A. Give me just a second. It's just an airplane, hush. I forgot my coffee. So, I would like to know exactly what she did tell Dawn the night that Summer come up missing. Absolutely. I've got a screenshot that before that marathon kicked off, she said that she didn't care what had to be done to raise money. But here's the thing. She was expecting to make a lot more money off of that than what she did. And she was pissed off at the end of it that people did not send her the money that she thought that she was going to make. And then she got pissed off about the fundraiser. I watched it all go down. Every bit of it. And she started that fake Fed bullshit when she knew that she already knew 423 Chase. And she didn't open her mouth and say anything to the rest of them or anybody else about knowing him previously. And there are pictures of Andy Bernard's mom and 423 Chase together. I have one of those pictures. You might have lived there all your life, but if you're not running with the drug gang and you're not running with certain people, you probably wouldn't know that group of people. You know, we were talking about how small this community is and how everybody knows everybody, but there is a certain part of this community of people that I don't know who is, because I do not go around certain types of people. And like this chick across the street from me, she won't be in this neighborhood long. Because like I told her and her little dope ride last night, that every time I see that car over there, I will call the police. Because I'm not putting up with that where I have to live. That was some crazy stuff last night. When she come beating on my door and I opened the blinds and I seen a blonde-headed girl standing there completely naked, you know, hunkered down like that, I opened the door and I snatched her inside, because my first thought was there was a man behind her beating on her, you know? And then I realized that I opened my home to somebody who could have potentially had the mindset to come in here and rob me. And it is a good thing that Cookie was on edge and kept her like right over there by the front door and wouldn't let her move. I mean, every time she moved, Cookie would growl. Urgh. My dog, Cookie. So if she had it in her mind that she was going to do something nefarious, I mean, Cookie was on her game too last night, so it could have. But, you know, I'm used to, you know, having decent neighbors and decent people in my neighborhood, so. But, you know, in a crazy kind of way, it taught me a lesson about opening my door in the middle of the night. Sad. And the cops was like, yeah, you know, it seems to be something in the heroin that's making them all see bugs this week. This is not the first one, he said. It's happening all over. He said it's the fentanyl that's being put in the heroin that's doing it to them. And I was like, heroin, fentanyl? I said, we don't even have that problem up through here. Get her ass out of my neighborhood. But anyway, they took her in 5150 to put her in a mental hospital. This is such a quiet little town, you know, I didn't even think that we really had that big of a problem with that stuff around here. So I guess I learned that last night, but the shit's everywhere. Well, you know, like I said, I thought with her being completely naked and wet, it struck me as it was domestic violence, you know. That's the first thing that came in my mind, was domestic violence. And that's why I opened my door and snatched her in like that. And then it wasn't domestic violence. It was stuff that she was doing to herself. And there was no bugs on her body. The only marks that I seen on her was track marks. No, 5150 is actually a thing. Actually a thing. Oh, thank you, Versi. I appreciate that. It means the world to me. You have no idea. I will. I'm going to take my son to a couple of places that he wanted his ashes dropped off at before the anniversary of his first year of his death rolls up. It's coming pretty quick. You know, his birthday was the day before yesterday. And I promised that I wouldn't leave him on a shelf, and I have slowly, you know, through the winter took him to a couple of places on some nice days and let some of him go. But there was some places at home over on the other side that I had promised to take him to. So that's what this trip is about, is turning some more of his ashes loose. And I may record some of that. I'm going to try to make it a happy thing and more of a celebration of life, and not dwell on this anniversary that's coming up, because it's not going to do me any good to get down and depressed. And what will help me is keeping my promise that I made to him. I promised him I would not keep him on a shelf in a box. That was the last promise I made to him. So to fulfill that promise is going to be a big thing. That's what's going to help me more than anything. Thank you, Andy. I got like a little tiny urn. It's just like this big. I mean, it's tiny. And I'm going to fill it up. He wanted me to let him go, part of him go around his grandpa's grave. But instead of just that, the tiny urn, I'm kind of going to dig down by my dad's headstone and bury that tiny urn up against my dad's headstone. And that way it'll always be there. So, bye, Bama girl. Well, I don't think anybody's doxing children. The boy's 20 years old. She said this time last year he was 19. So he's now got to be close to 20, not 19, unless you can stay 19 for more than a year at a time. She put him on the news. She puts her children on YouTube all the time. So I don't see how anybody's doxing children. I've not heard anybody bring up her daughter's name. I've not heard anybody talk about her daughter other than she ignores her. But as far as doxing her, I don't even know what the little girl's name is. So, I mean, what do you consider doxing? And I'm not taking up for anybody or any creator, but, you know, I've talked about the boy too. But talking about him is not doxing him. We've talked about Hunter too. And Hunter is a minor. Hunter is under the age of 18. So what's the difference in us talking about Hunter as a suspect and talking about her son that was in the swimming pool with Summer, and then the swimming pool just comes up gone. Nobody's seen it since. And him being seen snooping around the Wells property. Exactly. When you put yourself on a public platform, she's something else. I mean, she uses words like dox and terrorize and y'all are going to get people killed and this and that. And she uses all these big scary words that's meant to put fear into people. Well, doesn't she do the same thing to others? You know, I remember before Jose come back, and she was making accusations about Jose and saying that Andy said that Don had killed Jose and stole his truck. So she's made plenty of allegations herself that wasn't true. And I asked Jose if that truck had ever belonged to him, and he said no. And then I ran the truck. The truck has never belonged to Jose whatsoever. She talks about Fred Hill. And look at God, look what she has said about Andy. She wasn't worried about getting him killed when she was talking about all the pounds of meth that he was bringing into that area. And I believe her exact numbers was like 385 pounds of meth at a time, was what she said. And that wasn't counting the pills, that wasn't counting the marijuana. That was just the pounds of meth that he was bringing into that area. And good grief, she was not worried about getting him killed. She wasn't worried about getting him killed when she said that he was screaming at EquiSearch just to shoot him. And she wasn't worried about getting him locked up when she was screaming that he was going to public, talking about going into public and doing mass things to people. What about all those allegations? Was the plan to get him locked up and get Dawn locked up and her and Candace to take the kids, go get Summer, or collect the reward money, go get Summer, and then just disappear off into the wild blue yonder? This seems to be about punishing the men in the holler that mistreats the women. Y'all think about that one. Because I have. She got mad. Jody Sue got mad at Candace and got off script when Candace stopped trying to get the boys back and going and seeing the boys and stuff. Because that messed up the plan. That's when she started screaming about it. The last time I seen Summer, she was getting out of the shower with Dawn and was screaming for a towel and blah, 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 and they were fighting amongst themselves. And she slips there. Y'all notice there's a big slip in that. She says, and the boys says that I'm right about the dogs because those were my dogs. They were partly my pups and yada, yada, yada. Well, hold on, because if that was the last time you seen Summer before she went missing, why would the boys be talking to you about your dogs? And the dogs are the key. Right? If Summer was there when that conversation took place, that means that Summer's been there since she came up missing. Go back and listen to that. Go back and listen to what the crazy bitch says. There's a big slip in there. Two kids, 2 cents. And I think that those cents was rubbed all over those dogs. And you know that phone call that says Candace went for a walk? I think she did go for a walk, and she walked those dogs all through the woods with Summer's scent on the dogs. So then when they brought the search dogs out, they was following a scent that had been rubbed on the Wells dogs. That's just my opinion. people in that community that says that the domestic violence went both ways. That she beat on Andy just like Andy beat on her. That was a two-way deal there. But y'all go back to that video where she's sitting in that truck and she's running that gobsmacker. And she's talking about the last time she's seen Summer. And she says, and she was getting out the shower with Dawn and she was being a brat and she was looking for a towel and blah, blah, blah. And blah, blah, blah. And one of the boys was over here talking to me about how my dogs was right. And the dogs was the key and the dogs was the answer. Well, wait a minute. What's Summer doing there? If you're over here talking to the boys about the search dogs. Oh, some of my Jody Sue videos have been hacked. After I was attacked the other night, when I went to upload that video, my whole screen and phone went blank. Luckily, I have an iPhone and it blocks all that garbage, and I had a VPN up, and I was still able to upload that video. But she tried to hack me that night. And I wish I could remember the guy's name that kept saying, oh, you're done, and was trying to take it down and take my stream down. But after remember I said a while ago that once I leave here, I'm going over to the other corner of Alabama and then I'm headed up into Tennessee. Well, I'll be there for a minute and I am going to turn everything that I have into the TBI and to Ronnie Lawson. And everything that I have on Jody Sue and her hackers will be turned into the feds. It's the one that says, Jody Sue's attacking my stream. I turned it into that IC3. And I reported it to YouTube too. His name is Daryl Jacobs. And I think that he knows something. I think that he's seen something. Right. Little tippy toes right on out the back door. And you know, one of the tree cutters said that they had seen her that morning laid down in the back of the truck. Well, why was she laid down in the back of the truck? Nobody's asked that question. That was what one of them had told Ziggy during Ziggy's interview, that when they had seen her that morning, that she was laid in the back of the truck. That child took off that hill because of CPS. Now the question is she just being hidden and moved around in a network of people? Or was she just flat out sold? I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Because of that June 14th CPS call, and because it was dealing with the child not being able to sit in warm water and was screaming and crying with her crotch, I firmly believe that they was told to take the child to a pediatrician or to the advocacy center or somewhere. And the kid come up missing before they could take her to said place to be examined. Because they knew what was going to happen. I don't think that they just outright killed her. I mean, they're heartless, but I don't think they're that heartless. And I think that she is being hid because of the lack of emotion. And there is a video in my collection. It's down towards the bottom. And the name of it is What's All This Talk About Kids Coming Back? And it was a conversation that was caught between Candace, Robin, and another lady at church. Y'all can go listen to it. And it's the three of them talking after a prayer vigil between the three of them that got recorded. And they're talking about kids coming back after they come of age. And I was like, say what? And why are they talking about kids coming back? And if you think back to the beginning of this investigation, that wasn't the only time that it has been mentioned about kids being found and reunited with their families 20 years later. You know, it's been brought up several times in this investigation. I just hope that during this and during the time that she's being moved and shuffled around and everything, that she is in a better situation and not with the same kind of people. Because what kind of people actually help move kids around from CPS that puts their own homes and lives at risk of getting a felony every day of their life? They can't be. Who hides kids every day? Candace has said the same thing, that she'll never be found. Right. And do you see that available space under the stairs as that kid was growing? It wasn't nice. And that's what I'm saying. What type of people and what circumstances. I have heard that Candace and Kathy was having relations before Summer come up missing. I have heard that Candace and Jessica Light was having relations before Summer come up missing. He never named a place in Mexico. He just said in Mexico. And you can cross the border from Texas to Arizona pretty much without I know in Brownsville, Texas, you can just pretty much just walk across the border and do what you want to do. It's getting back across is the problem. Anybody notice that Jody Sue was driving a yellow vehicle the other day? We've seen her drive her mama's red truck. But, you know, back in the early part of this investigation, you know, there was a yellow vehicle that was talked about that wasn't Dudley's truck. And now Jody Sue's driving around in something yellow. It's just things that make you go, Exactly. And now in the last 15 videos or so, she was driving a yellow car. Don't know what kind of yellow car, we could just tell it was yellow. She had tried putting her feed on members only, but then she realized she didn't have enough members to actually get the money she needed through PayPal. So then she opened it back up to the public. It is an odd color. Oh, when I go through Green Hill, I am going to stop at the flower shop, and I am going to buy a plant for Miss Vicky's mom. If anybody wants to pitch in for a plant, send it. Even just $5 would help, and the more I can raise, the bigger the plant that I can get. And I would like to get one big enough for her to take home with her. And you can either send it Cash App, or you can send it just on the Super Chat or whatever if you want to help out. If you don't, that's fine. I'm going to do it anyway. That is 100% up to you guys. I just wanted to give y'all the opportunity to, you know, if you did want to pitch in. And I would make it, you know, from Valkyrie's Corner YouTube channel. I don't know if they're accepting visitors yet at the funeral home, but I was going to stop and see. I was going to stop and see if her mom was there. Well, I feel bad for her mom, you know. And I'm trying to look at it like you would sort of with a drug addict. You know, you would not judge a drug addict, or you shouldn't judge a drug addict from one bad mistake. And I know the Vicky that I knew, she would do anything in the world for you, but she would not break the law. So something changed in her life so drastic that nobody caught For her to go her whole life believing in justice and never breaking the law to breaking the law. So it was something drastic, and that I'm going to choose not to remember the worst thing in the world that she ever done. Well, you know, and Vicky always had a man in her life that that needed her, that depended on her, that she had to take care of. And I think, you know, when her husband died, she found herself alone and nobody needed her. There was nobody to take care of. There was, you know, no man that, for her to help. And then bam, there was Casey. Just at the right time. Just when she was probably feeling her absolute lowest. I just wish somebody could have recognized it, and she didn't have children of her own, but there was a lot that called her mom, and she raised other people's kids. There was 2 that I know of that she pretty much raised that called her mom. Family members' kids. I do believe that it was suicide. I don't believe that he killed her. I believe 100% that she done that herself. I don't think that she wanted to be brought back here. To have to look at the community and the community to look at her. I don't think that she wanted to be brought back here to look at the people that looked up to her. I don't think she could have stood that. And I believe 100% that she done that to herself. Just so she didn't have to explain. I kind of think that it was supposed to be a suicide pact, that he was supposed to shoot himself too, and he didn't. I've wondered about that. And he was too chicken to do it. And it wouldn't surprise me, Because, well, you know, they put a lot of saltpeter in their food at the jail. And that is a substance that they put in the food that keeps the men from being able to get an erection while they're in jail. And that way they don't have a lot of sexual prowess going on in the jails here. It takes a long time to get that out of your system, too. So that doesn't surprise me one bit. Voldemort, or however you say it, is the name that Jody Sue calls Andy Bernard. Her little girl, for some reason, is obsessed with the Harry Potter stuff. And that store is like a half a mile from me. I know, right? And I'll tell you about the type of people that frequent that store. It's right beside the plasma center, where people go to give plasma for money. It sits right up against it. And that's the kind of people that kind of frequent that store. It's not even a real nice store like to go get little lingerie outfits or anything like that. I mean, it's just downright trashy. We've tried several times to close it down, pass laws against it even being here. Like, no, I don't live in Rogersville. Right? Why not just order from somewhere like that if you... I guess she didn't have time, was in a hurry. And that kind of tells you right there she knew about what they were putting in the jail food. Anticipated the problems. But anyway, guys, we've had a good chat, and I'm fixing to hit the road. I'm fixing to get on the road and start my little vacation. And I'm going to take my son and let him go a couple of places. And when I get to where I'm going, I'll do a couple of live streams and show y'all some beautiful places in the mountains. I mean, just some absolute gorgeous places. I'll show you some waterfalls and things like that. So I love you guys, and I will see you on the flip side for sure. I love you.